All right, welcome to JPEG to Raw. Tonight we have a special guest coming on the show, but before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about someone out in our Facebook group who's been a regular to the show, come on and been a regular person out in the Hangout, the chat room and everything. You don't see her here tonight. Her name is Jeannie Kessler. Hopefully I said her name right. And Jeannie has been a big part of the show in many different ways for a long time. And what was it, 2 days ago, Jeannie passed away. Suddenly, from what we hear from her daughter, she passed away while she was at her computer and editing some photos. Jeannie's one of those people that, hold on a second, is one of those people that has always given you a good compliment on your photos. You know, when I post the photos to my webpage, not the webpage, to my Facebook group, I can count on two people that would always say something nice about my photos, no matter what the photos were, what the subject was, whatever it was. Two people that would say something nice about it, and that was, one was my mom, which I think she's contractually obligated to, and the other was Jeannie. Jeannie would always have something positive to say, and in fact, she said something that same day. She said something to on one of the photos I posted there. She was out, an active member in our Facebook group. She even won our monthly challenge twice. She won the monthly challenge, Tim. I don't know if you remember that.
Right, I remember.
And, it's one of those things when I was growing up, and we didn't have social media. We did not have Facebook or anything like that. And, social media for us was you hopped on your bike and you drove down the street to visit your friends. And then as I got older and some of my younger sisters and stuff were meeting people online, I thought, that's crazy. How do you know who these people are? You can't really make friends online. That's just not possible. But, now as I've gotten a little older and I've actually experienced some of this, some of my best friends are people that I know online. One of the guys, Jim Collison, that I've met online through different things, we've talked all the time. And, 4 or 5 times a week, we are talking video-wise. And, we've become close friends. We've even met one time in person. So, for me, I've had a realization that you can make great friends online, and Jeannie was one of them. Jeannie even sent me. I don't know if you can see that with all the lights I have here, but she did some calligraphy for me, sent this to me, and something she had wrote and made up herself. And I'll read it real quick. Lord, graciously bless our home and all within. Help us to reflect your love, to increase in hope, and to share your joy. So a very nice little thing she wrote. I think she made that phrase up herself and has it copyrighted. So she was a great friend and will be sorely missed. And someone who also is a joy to see her grow in her photography from when she joined the group to when, just up until recently when you could see her getting better and better at what she did. Tim, do you want to?
No, you know what, Mike, you said a lot there, and I think I have to echo everything you said. I mean, she was a big contributor, always on Facebook, putting a lot of pictures up there, always around, and it comes as a surprise, especially when somebody is so young to pass away, and so suddenly. I mean, obviously, if she's sitting at her computer editing pictures and something happened, you know what? She passed away doing what she obviously loved, but it's a loss, and really sad.
Yeah, and I think the thing to remember here is you never know. Life is short. You never know when you're going to lose somebody. Think about what you say, online to somebody. You never know how that's going to come across. But you can make real friends online. This show, Tim, I've made friends with you.
Absolutely.
Here we are. Have done all this stuff for 3 years now. And then we get to meet great photographers, great people in the photo industry, like our guest tonight we'll get to in a second. We've met a lot of people through this online media that really become true friends. And that's the thing I can say about Jeannie. She became true friends, not just to me, not just to Tim, but if you go to her Facebook page or even our Facebook group, there are lots of people she became friends with and had friended. And she'll be missed by a lot of people. All right.
Rest in peace.
Yep, rest in peace. So I guess in a way this show's dedicated to Jeannie. But, and Jeannie would probably be here tonight watching. So you should be interested in our guest tonight. And our guest tonight is Mimika Cooney. That's probably
Mimika. I said it right before the show, Mike.
So there's a good transition for you. I was doing so well in the show before y'all heard me talking. I got it right every time, Mimika. And I was so
on air, and that's it.
I was so worried about saying her last name wrong. Then I said, first name's easy. I'm going to mess up the last name, but there you go. I messed up the first name too. So Mimika, welcome to the show.
Great, thanks for having me. I always say the way you can remember it is Mimika like paprika and Cooney like George Clooney. The women will always remember that. Clooney without the L.
I won't remember that, but
the guys are like, mm-mm.
Yeah. But no, I just messed up your name because I just messed up the name. I have no excuse for it. So last show we did a show. Oh, and just a little bit of Mimika. She has her own TV show, Mimika TV. So anybody who wants to go out there and look at that, where can they find it, Mimika?
That'll be on my website, which is mimikacooney.com, spelled MIMIKACOONEY.com. And every week on a Wednesday at 12 o'clock Eastern Time, I release another episode of Mimika TV. Mine is pre-recorded, not live like yours. Takes a little pressure off, but we also interview some great guests that are involved in the photography and business and marketing industry. So, yeah, and it's all free to view. So, sign up to the email list and you'll get those updates.
Yeah, and I have it pulled up right here. We'll have the link in the show notes after the show when we do the post. And I was telling her before the show, I love her graphic of her and the little light bulb and her intro into her videos. So be sure to go out there and check those out and see what I'm talking about, because we're going to talk a little bit about those logos and the branding that you do with all that.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep. So Mimika's also, you are an award winner too, aren't you? You've won. I'm looking at your list of awards, and there's a long list. You can see these on our website, but there's a long list of awards that you have won, which is very impressive.
Oh, gee, thanks. But it started like as a child, being the eldest, always trying to, look at me, mom and dad, watch what I can do. And it's kind of one of those things, like I feel you've got to prove yourself. So back when I started in photography, I got myself involved in the British Institute of Photography back in England. That's where my story begins. And I'm one of those, I'm very curious. I like to know how to do things better. And if you aren't telling me how I can, do things better and giving me some negative criticism, I don't think I can grow. So that's what I love about putting it out there.
Yeah, no, and the criticism is self-critiquing or from someone else is what, like you said, what helps you grow. Otherwise, you won't
definitely
know. So last show we did with Ben Hartley, we were talking about taking your photography hobby and turn it into a business, and some things you need to think about making that transition. And Ben had a nice list of things and a lot of advice. So let's now assume that you've done that. You've gone from being a hobby photographer into being a pro photographer. Or, I guess some of these things we're going to talk about, you can still be the hobbyist moving that way. But what are some of the first things from a marketing perspective, Mimika, that someone should be thinking about as I'm getting started? Maybe I'm starting to do my web page and doing that kind of stuff. What are some of the first things I should be thinking about?
Well, definitely. I mean, as photographers, first of all, what a lot of the photographers I speak to, about a majority of them usually start out in photography because they love it as a hobby. Now, I remember the days where, I got my camera, and then, especially when digital came out, because I was trained in film, but it wasn't the instant gratification that digital has. So as you grow and the bug bites, you start to think, oh, I love doing this. And of course, coming back to the thing about criticism, if people around you in your circle start to tell you, oh, you've got great eye, or you take some great pictures, maybe you should start charging for it. And what I like to tell people is sometimes that's the worst advice, because if you're going out there to create a business just because you love taking pictures, that's not enough. I mean, I started back in 2003 when in my local area I was maybe one of 15 wedding photographers. Nowadays, the same area probably have 200. So wow. Things have changed. Competition is much fiercer. So just having a passion for something isn't enough. And this is why I'm so passionate about helping photographers and creators design a business model based on what they, first of all, need to make as a business. because that's the other thing is, when I speak to other people in the industry who are more business minded, and they're all like, okay, very numbers driven. And I think that's where us creatives kind of get it back to front. We look at our businesses, oh, I love doing this. Oh, maybe I should charge. Oh, maybe I should charge more. Oh, these people like my pictures. Instead of someone in hardcore business would say, does it make sense? What is your market and what are your numbers? So basically how we break this down is really knowing where you want to be before you set out going anywhere. Because, without a compass, we're going to end up in some direction we don't want to be. And it's very hard to backtrack and start again. Not saying it can't be done. But, so even for those who've been in business, and this is an example I have for myself, I started in weddings back in England in 2003. And then I remember the first time I ever went to a photography group. It was this old boys club. I walked in there, had my slide film under my arm. And as I walked in, made a fool of myself. I dropped them all over the floor. And one of the guys looked over and he says, "Hey, love, why don't you come over and make us a cup of tea?"
Oh, boy.
Talk about condescending. Well, I tell you, I was so determined. And that's the thing is, if someone tells me you can't, I'm going to say, watch me. This is why I have a problem with trying to go out there and prove myself. And I don't know what it comes from, maybe from my South African background where, you aren't anything or anybody until you can actually prove that you have the goods. So even though it wasn't a very warm welcome, it really made me determined to learn more from the people who've been there. So long story short, fast forward a couple of years, going through the old boys club and learning what I could from everybody, I really realized, there's more to it than just the picture side. So fast forward a few years, I re-engineered my brand and my business. Probably if I look back at it now, because at the moment I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina in the USA. So I've kind of continent hopped a few times and restarted my business at least 3 times.
Wow.
And every time I did that, I learned, things that I wanted to do and realized what I didn't want to be doing anymore. So, it's not to say that even, say you're starting in business, you don't know where you want to be. It's hard to know until you try. And making mistakes, there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. Because believe me, I've made so many, I might even make some more because I seem to learn more from my mistakes than my successes, really. So, this can go to somebody who's starting out as well as someone who's been in it. It's really knowing where you want to be and then working backwards.
Right. So many things you said there. I had so many
Sorry,
thoughts on.
Too much at you.
No, that's okay. Because a lot of us who are, I'm sure Tim gets this sometimes. A lot of us who are hobbyists who never want to go pro, but then some of them who do. Like, say for instance, I shoot my son's swim meet. I shoot all these photos, and I think I do a pretty good job. I'm sure some people can do better, but I think I'm doing a pretty good job. And you get told all the time, man, these photos are good. You should do this for a living. And, no idea what I actually do for a living, and that I don't want to do that. But you get told that all the time, and taking that, going from being told you did a great job shooting a swim meet to actually making a living from that is 2 different things.
There's huge difference. There's a huge difference between I do this because I love it, because there's no pressure to pay the bills.
Right.
Where when you do this as a business, you really have to look at it like a business, and it becomes just like your day job. You got to go there. You got to do the job that you're hired to do. You got to produce results. You got to pay the bills. You got to make a profit, and it becomes a completely different monster. And that's a lot of the time why I say to people when I mentor them is that don't rely on passion. Passion doesn't pay the bills, because eventually passion will burn out. And I say this from my own experiences, because I thought, I just love the photography, and you get so involved in it and go down the lane, and then you eventually look back and go, oh, hang on, this isn't where I wanted to be. What resulted was I was overworked, stressed out, my health took a toll. I was, losing weight and having major migraines, and fighting with the husband. The house was a mess. The kids were a mess. And I wasn't bringing home any profits. I mean, even at that stage, I had 2 employees working for me, contract staff members. I was basically spinning my wheels, paying for their money, and I wasn't actually making a profit. And that's why I'm so passionate about trying to help other business owners realize that before they go down that way, that just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right. You can, for me, when I go and shoot those things, it's fun. I like doing it. There's no pressure, because I'm thinking, so what if I mess up? What are you going to do?
Exactly.
I'll come to the next meet and shoot it again. I mean, I'm going to be here every meet. Who cares?
Exactly. So
No,
when you don't have that pressure, it's totally different for.
Absolutely.
And I know it's funny when I talk to photographers on both sides, like those who are hobbyists like yourselves, who are happy doing what you're doing, and then those who are in it for a business get really irate because they realize, if you're going to do this, it's not just a hobby. If you're going to charge money for it, you really need to be serious about treating it like a business, because it does unfortunately devalue the perceived value of photography in the general public's eyes if hobbyist photographers are not charging enough. So that's what I say to people. If you enjoy it as a hobby, keep the day job. Don't charge for it. Do it for fun, and maybe do it for, exchange of trade of services or whatever. But don't go out the gate thinking, oh, well, just because it's fun and I might just make a few extra dollars, just start charging peanuts. Because first of all, what it's going to do is you're going to start attracting the wrong clients. And then you're gonna end up finding that you can't actually sustain it as a business model, and after that you've kind of burnt the bridges in terms of the actual industry and people searching for photographers. It's very hard to raise your prices if you start rock bottom.
Yeah, no, I agree. And when I needed to hire when I needed senior photos for my child who was a senior, I knew where to go. I went and hired a professional photographer, and he did a wonderful job. And I tell, at the swim meet, I have parents who say, Mike, can you take that photo like you did of your son? I said, do you really think that I took that at a swim meet? I said, no, that was a professional photographer under conditions. And oh, by the way, here's his name and his information. Go contact him. He can take these wonderful photos of your child too. So yeah. So before chat goes too far away, I want to ask this question because you talked about earlier that you can do some of these things even if you're already established. So Stephen out in chat has been running his business for 2 years, I think is what he said. And he's got a name for it called Celtic Serenity Photography. And now he's wanting, I don't think he's done the LLC or the sole proprietorship, any of that kind of stuff, but he's wanting to now do that, make it legal. And he's wondering now, he's rethinking the name. So his question is, should I stay with that name or create a company that's in his name? So like Stephen Miller Photography or something like that.
That's a very good question. And this is something I actually went through myself. When I was in England, I was trading as my own name, Mimika Cooney Photography. And then when my husband got transferred to the US and we moved here in 2006, it was a great time for me to do a completely new rebrand and start all over. And I'd heard another photographer say, well, if you eventually decide to hire other photographers and you want to have a studio with more than just you, it's best to have a generic name. Now, of course, that was then and this is now. Now, I think things have changed where photographers are mostly seen as an artistic side of a service. In other words, if you are the only photographer, it's great to go by your own name. But of course, the only reason why a generic name would work is if you eventually want to hire other people, or perhaps you want to sell it in a couple of years. So it really just depends on where you want to go. And that's why I say why planning is so important is where do you want to be in 5 or 10 years' time? Do you see yourself as a professional photographer? Do you see yourself working in your business? Because then you can decide. And then the other side of the coin is that choosing a name is actually very important because people will associate it with a lot of things. And this ties really nicely into the whole branding side that we'll talk about. Creating your brand really needs to be intrinsic to who you are. So, for instance, like I always liken it, if I go shopping at the mall and I'm going down and I'm looking for a pair of black pants, for instance, or trousers, for those people in England listening. If I'm walking down there and I happen to walk past, Kids Boutique, and then I see a Nike shoe shop, and then I see the Apple Store, I'm not even going to go down into those stores, even though I might have glanced at them. I'm not even going to bother wasting my time going through the doors to see what they have, because it's not what I'm looking for. Where a lot of the time now, and from a branding perspective, we've all become very, very specific about what we need. And I'm sure you've noticed this yourself. Like unconsciously now, we tend to like block off things that aren't pertaining to our interest. Like when you're pregnant, you happen to notice all the pregnant women. Or when you're looking to buy a Ferrari, you happen to notice all the Ferraris down the road. But where before you never noticed them. So the same thing is when you're walking down the mall, you're looking for that store that has those black pants. You're only going to go into that store that is going to service your needs. And that's where it's important as a business owner to really think about who your market is first. Before you even start with a name and a logo and color scheme, you need to know who you're aiming it at So you can then design it, and it also needs to be designed around who you are. Another great story is, going back to that advice I got about being a generic name. I decided to call my studio Photo Lyrical Photography, because Photo Lyrical came from being a ballet dancer. I always, told a non-verbal story and movement and things like that. So the lyrical part seemed, that works. Then I thought about it. I thought, well, let me see. I suppose the color purple is a very generic, if I'm going to do babies, and it kind of has a royal stigma to it. Oh, well, I'll go with black and purple. Not really thinking about who I am and what I like, because as an artist, we really are selling ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. We're selling what it is that we do in our artistic vision. So because I didn't really think about where I wanted to be, 6 years down the line, I look back, I had a business name that wasn't about me. I used to get annoyed when people go, oh, Photo Lyrical, yeah, I've heard about them. Who are you? And eventually I realized I had to associate my work with my name. Second of all, I was attracting the wrong clients. I would attract the kind of clients who maybe were more stoic and more traditional, who like things, very stiff and, were very particular about what they liked. Where, if I looked at my wardrobe, my wardrobe is very bright and colorful and vivacious. There was a total disconnect between my brand and who I was. So there was a frustration within myself as well as my clients, because they felt like what they were getting was different to what they were expecting. So suffice it to say, about 3 years ago, I did a completely new rebrand. And I'm sure you can see on the website, I have now, eradicated the purple. I keep to the white and the blues that I like, because my 13-year-old daughter at the time said, Mom, I don't know why you keep struggling with colors. If you just look at your wardrobe, 90% of your clothing is blue. So I was like, well, there you go. Sometimes looking at things from a perspective of what it is we like to do, or how it is we like to dress, or where we like to go and eat, those are clues as to how to design our own business based on who we are as artists. So a good example would be, and this is what I would train people to do when I go through my mentoring program, is to go and do like a Pinterest board. Go and collate things that interest you, everything from fonts to places you like to visit, or clothing outfits you like to wear, or color schemes, and kind of start to create things and put them together. Then you'll find there'll be a few outliers. You just need to kick those out. But eventually you'll see a theme. Like a lot of the time, if there's a photographer I worked with, and she kept picking out colors that were more neutral, like browns and sort of burlap colors and earthy tones. And she had a lot of like pinks and golds in there. So I said, well, there is your brand colors, neutral tones with golds and pinks. And she's like, oh, I didn't realize that, but that's the kind of colors I like to wear. So again, that's how you design your business from the inside out, is really understanding who you are first before you even pick up a camera and start charging money.
Yeah. And I think sitting down and thinking a 10-year plan or a 5-year plan, if you can't think out 10, that's a great idea with any business, especially with this one with photography, and where you want to go, what you want to shoot. Sometimes I want to shoot everything. But, that may not always be the best thing. Maybe it is you need to specialize, or at least refine everything down a little bit to something that's not everything, and specialize a little bit. But what is your opinion on, let's say you decide I'm going to do weddings. I'm going to be a wedding photographer. That seems to be, there's a lot of hard work, but it also has some good money associated with it. What is your thoughts on, you don't want to name your photography business, Mike's Wedding Photography, because now I'm locked into doing weddings, and later I may want to do seniors and some other things like that too.
Yeah, exactly. So, you don't really want to put yourself in a box, but you want to think about, where it is that you want to go. So perhaps not using the word wedding photography, but maybe just photography or even studio. But I would say if you're going to be a photographer, to use the word photo or photography, especially from an online marketing or, SEO perspective. And that was another reason why I chosen the name Photo Lyrical. But, either way, the name is really the starting point. And, going back to what you mentioned about specialization, I definitely think, even I was thinking about this the other day, 5 or 7 years ago, you would go to a photographer's website and you would have, here's our babies, here's our weddings, here's our seniors, and here's our fashion photography. And that was all in good. But I think what's happened now is because there is so much competition, there is so much noise out there, people they've got the blinkers on. They want to know if I'm looking for something or a service, I really want to know that this person is going to meet my needs. And again, another example I had with my photo lyrical site, which is why I've now split all the different types of genres I do. I'd have feedback from people saying, oh, I'm looking for, a newborn photographer. And I'd have my slideshow on my front page. Oh, beautiful baby. Oh, look at that baby. Whoa, there's a pair of boobs. I was doing pin-up photography. And all of a sudden, there was this woman, very tastefully done. And it was like, oh, okay, that's a bit of a shock. I wasn't really expecting that. And I kind of find that it created a disconnect again. So I was like, no, okay, let's look at this from their perspective. The pregnant mom, she's thinking of babies, she's thinking of maternity. All she needs to see is baby maternity. Mom who's looking for a makeover or boudoir or pinup, she needs to be on another site because she doesn't want to see pretty babies. She's gonna think, oh, this photographer really only does babies. She doesn't really get what I want to get. And that's why I think going forward, the best thing to do is to really specialize in the kind of thing that you want to be and be the best at what matters most, which is providing the service for your clients. Because I think what's happened, and I've made this mistake myself, is thinking it's all about me. My website's out there. It's a total portfolio. Look at all the wonderful things I can do. I mean, I'm saying this myself. I was looking at my gallery page the other day. A lot of things have got to go. I'm going to do this myself. Go through and thin out a lot of the things that, I don't want people to see. Like, I don't show, even though I've won several awards in wedding photography, I don't show that anymore because I don't want people thinking that I shoot weddings anymore. And that was just from a personal perspective. I didn't want to work weekends because I had younger kids. So going forward, I really want to make sure that I'm speaking and my work is speaking to the audience who's looking for me. That way, then the right people will find me and my message will resonate with them.
Yep, that's great. You think about yourself when you went somewhere, a photography site or any site, and you had to weed through a lot of things that had nothing to do with what you were there for. You would leave.
Yeah, you lose interest. Yeah,
there's too many other choices. So, if great example, what you're talking about. If I went there as a mom and I wanted to get looking at newborns, and I, every fifth shot or whatever was boudoir. Or something that had nothing to do with newborns, hey, it's why I don't want to look at all this other stuff. I want to see your work that is newborns,
exactly.
or weddings.
We have it on the page scrolling now.
Yeah. Or
some girl and then babies. So it's kind of like, ooh.
Or if you are there for boudoir and you come across and all I got is weddings or seniors, like I don't want to see all this stuff. I'm here for that. So that's really that's interesting. You've given a lot of good tips, Tim. I don't know if you've been able to keep up with the show notes.
I got a bunch, but yeah.
Sorry, I talk at 100 miles an hour, but this is the thing is I hear this a lot, and I only tell you these things based on my own experience because believe me, I've made a ton of mistakes, and I've realized this as I've gone along. And indeed, nobody's perfect. I've been in the industry 11 years now, and it's still a work in progress. I mean, as we speak, I'm actually revising my own. A third website, which is worthyrevolution.com, which is going to be my fashion high school senior brand. And I just recently had a new logo created for that because, again, my eldest daughter is 15, and I look at the speed at which she goes down her Instagram feed. It's, you have to grab them within a thumbtack. Like, if I don't grab them, if like her and her friends, if they're looking down their feed, they don't necessarily want to see the other things that I do with babies. They're going to totally unfollow me. So I've created a separate feed on Instagram to help just appeal to that teenage market because they're going to want to see, makeup tips. They're going to want to see, beautiful hair and outfits. They don't care about my baby photography. Where the mom, who tends to be not as much on Instagram but happens to be more on Pinterest, she's looking for more of, the baby things. So again, and this is where I think we got to look at it. It's not about me as a photographer and what I can do, just because I can shoot 5 different things. Who am I speaking to, and what is it they want to hear?
Yeah.
Like, what do they want from me? So you want to find out what they want, and you want to give them what they want.
And I think that feeds right into Stephen's next question. He was saying, what if I'm shooting a wedding, and the bride also wants me to do boudoir to make us book for her husband, her soon-to-be husband, and
which is great. Because, basically you still have the audience, but you don't have to necessarily brand yourself as a boudoir-only photographer.
Right.
One thing does lead into it.
Exactly. A lot of things in photography lead to other things, and you should be taking advantage of those. If you're a wedding photographer, you were just there with 2 people who got married. There is a chance that in the near future they may have a baby, and there,
exactly.
If you want to do newborn stuff, there's that. If you don't, maybe you can refer it to a friend and have some feedback on there. Or you may do a senior who, a few years later, she may be getting married. She or he may be getting married and remember you. So there's a lot of stuff to feed there. But do you think maybe what you do is one option to do is you have your landing site and you have a click here for it takes you to another site that is wedding, takes you to another site that is boudoir, or something like that, or create a whole different feed.
Yes, you can. And the thing is, I know it's a lot more work, and I've tested this myself, and I just feel that that's the way people are thinking and the way that the marketing is targeted at. Everything from any social media platform you look at, if you're looking for something or to follow someone or to look at their work, you want it to appeal to what you want, but you don't want to totally eliminate the idea. So going back to the idea of like, if I'm doing wedding photography, and as you said, she's going to want to have boudoir, because they already have the relationship with you, they are going to ask you to do other things. And it doesn't mean you have to say, oh, no, I don't do them. You can refer them out. There's two sides to that. First of all, you should ask yourself, can you do justice to this service? So you say you're a wedding-only photographer. If you don't really know how to do boudoir and you're not comfortable doing it, you probably are better off referring it on to someone who can give your client a better experience. But saying that, I do believe in client retention, that if you have a client and you can service them, you keep them for life, because it's much cheaper to keep a client than it is to find a new one. So again, it really just depends on where you are at, what your skill set level is, and what you want to do. Like if you, one of the photographers who's building a studio who's going to hire other photographers, and you could have someone who does babies and then one who does seniors, you can keep them within the studio because you can service their needs. But it doesn't necessarily mean as a one person, one man, one woman show, you can be all things to all people, because that's when it becomes rather messy. Mm-hmm. So I hope that sort of answers the question.
No, it did for me, yeah. Okay, so let's say you've got your plan, you've got your area you're going to be focusing on. Now you've got to start worrying about how do I let's say I'm going to focus on seniors or wedding or whatever I'm going to focus on. How do I market to how do I determine what crowd to market to?
Exactly. And as I said, there's a few ways to look at it. First of all, I'd say, where was it? Even 5 years ago, there would I would consider 3 tiers, like the high end level, where people have a lot of disposable income, the sort of middle class level, and the lower class level. The lower class would be maybe people who are really on a budget, the Groupon types who want a deal. But I think there's even more than 3 tiers now. I think the market is segmented so much. It just depends on more than just age and demographics, because you can't assume that a person who lives in a modest house can't afford your photography, because I made that mistake thinking, oh, this client will never be able to invest more than X amount, and they end up spending more than some of my clients who live in $1 million homes. So we don't want to make that assumption, but what we want to do is to be able to appeal to a certain target market, and this is why it's important to have what I would call a client avatar. Now, I know as girls growing up, when you go through that Barbie stage, there used to be this game with like your little cutout, and you put all the little pieces of clothing. Oh, we'll give her, an outfit and change her head around. I know it seems childlike, but it's actually a very good way of looking at how to find your target market, is thinking of it, how would you design your client avatar? Think about where she shops, where does she hang out, what are the values? Does she like organic food? Does she only buy, produce that, or buy things that are eco-friendly, or is she one of those coupon clippers, or everything from the things that she values to the places that she goes to. Is 2 ways to figure it out. How does she spend her time, and where does she spend her money? Because I say she because I'm assuming most photography decisions are made by the female of the family.
That's not sexist at all, because it's true.
Exactly. It's like 90% of us are the ones pulling the photography strings. Yeah. So you've got to think about where she is. Just think of where she spends her time and where she spends her money. So this also leads to the question, a lot of people say, oh, well, not everyone can be high end. What is high end really? It just really depends on, is it based on client spendability, like how much money would you relate that to, maybe how much they invest in your services? Because I had a photographer I interviewed, and she said as she went up the rung of the ladder and started, doing packages for clients, she would say maybe she started at $1,500 and then she went to $2,000 and then $3,000, $5,000, $8,000, and she eventually got up to $10,000 package for weddings.
Wow.
And she said, funny, when she got there, she realized she didn't actually like dealing with those clients. She preferred the ones that were like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 clients. So again, I think there's a misconception in the photography industry that unless you're charging high end or you're moving up the spending ladder, that you're not a good enough photographer. And that's not necessarily true. It's really who are you and who are you servicing. As long as you can be the best at what matters most to those people, then you're successful. So
okay.
I hope that answers that one.
And Stephen's asking a question. This kind of goes along with what I was saying is, or the next question I would have is, you've identified your market. How do I market to them? And he's saying he's got a budget of, let's say, $200 to $300. What are some of the some ways that he could market in a small community of about 30,000 people? And he's thinking about doing things like paper flyers, door to door, possibly some postcards, print 8x10s of his company and current photos around Starbucks, and some things like that. I'm sure I've lost some of the
So first of all, no. Do not spend your money on flyers, door to door. You are not a garage salesman or a roofing contractor. You are a photographer who provides artistic services to a client's emotional needs. We are not comparing you with the contractor who cuts my grass. I get tons of those in my mailbox, and
what do you do with them?
I don't even look at them. I stand over my trash can and I dump them. Because
that's a great point.
Everybody should know who they are.
Everybody should ask that question. What do you do with something that somebody's either put a little magnet thing on your mailbox or something in your mail? What do you do with that?
Windshield wiper of your car.
Windshield wiper of your car. If you put it on a windshield wiper of the car, if it said I won $1 million, I won't win it because I will not read it. If you stuck it on a windshield wiper of my car, now it is a personal thing. I am going to throw that thing away as fast as I can.
Exactly. What does it say about you? Cheap, cheap, and cheap. So in other words, if I'm looking for a really cheap photographer, I might consider you. But at the end of the day, we're not selling shampoo, we're not selling roof, and we're not selling cleaning services or anything that's got to do with a commodity. And I think that's a huge problem with what happens in the photography industry. A lot of photographers start out thinking, I've got to price myself to like a commodity, and what happens? You get basically beat up on price. Mm-hmm. And so first of all, before you spend any money on anything printed, even advertising or even social media, I say before you spend money on, Facebook advertising, start with relationships. Look at your 5-mile radius of where you live. Who can you connect to on a personal level? Like if you're a wedding photographer, go down to the local salon and introduce yourself to the salon owner and say, a new photographer in town, you'd love to do an event with them. Give first, ask later. So you want to offer them your services and think of ways that you can do collaborative events. Like if you're a pet photographer, go and approach your local vet and perhaps think of creating a charity-based day where they send out the mailings to their list. You can set up shop in their front foyer and ask for food donations. You're getting visibility in front of the right audience. You're not paying for advertising, and they're doing the advertising for you. Same thing with the hair salon. If you can offer the hair salon headshots of all their stylists for their website, you're providing a service, and you're letting them they're getting to know you. Because one of the things I think we make mistakes with as business owners is, I have a camera, we'll take pictures, here's my card. And what that reminds me of is a very bad speed dating experience. Like if you're a guy and you go to a bar and you see a pretty girl sitting you're not going to go right up to her, shove your card in her face and say, hi honey, you want to get married? What's she going to say? Get away from me, creep. You are like freaking me out. Ew and ew.
Really?
If she says Tim, and if she says yes, you probably should walk away.
Exactly. It'd be very scary. Yeah. And that's exactly what photographers do. They go up to clients, they shove their cards in their faces and say, will you marry me? You can't ask a marriage proposal until you've at least got them to know, like, and trust you, and at least dated them for a while. Mm-hmm. Let them, kind of warm up the relationship. And I think this is where times have changed. People have to realize is that it's based on relationships first. So unless I can give people a reason to like me, there's no reason for them to even want to send me any business. So that's not going to cost you any money. It might cost you your time, going there and providing them the service. And I've had great results. Whenever I want to start a new market or try something, I look for the people who are the influencers in the market. And sometimes if you don't know where to start with, just start asking around. Like if you're, a photographer looking to get into children's photography, especially for guys, I think it's a little harder because you're not with a mom of preschooler who's going to these, mom get-togethers that will naturally talk about things. You just you need to just start asking around. Start with people who are within your own network and start asking them, where do you go and, where do you get your hair done? What do you consider is a good place? Just start asking questions and reaching out to people.
Steven says he lives 5 minutes, a 5-minute drive away from a country club. So that may that may be a good place to get to know somebody. So what you're saying is find somebody you can kind of team up with a little bit, some kind of local business or something like that you can team up with and provide your service to them so you can gain access to their clients.
Exactly. There's always a gatekeeper to every type of industry, and there's always somebody who's more of a bigger mouth or a bigger influencer. There's always a girl in a group of girls who tends to be the follower, whether it's a mom's group, a teen group, high school seniors, grandma group. If you can find those people and you can get them to know, like, and trust you, then you have an in getting your foot in the door. And before, I always say you need to at least give 3 times before you even ask for anything in return. And, like saying, for instance, for the guy who's near the country club, you don't want to just go up to arrive one day and say, hi, I'm a photographer, here's my card, I'd love to be considered one of your recommended vendors. You got to just think of it, okay, if I'm, as a dating, how can I do this? Let me find out first what it is they need. So even research on their website, like, do they have awful headshots? Do they look like their staff have had their own little, badly taken pictures on their social media page? Do they have an event that they're doing, perhaps that's coming up in the future, that any charitable things? And often, coming from give first, ask later, people their defenses go down, and you tend to find you get a much warmer reception.
Mm-hmm. And Stephen asked a good question, and I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit, is doing these things for free, doing the thing to get your foot in the door like this, you want to make sure you're not taken advantage of, and that this doesn't become a freebie forever. At some point, it's got to convert. So he's kind of asking, how much do I give before I start worrying about it? He even put a number like 5 digital images. What reach do I give them to use? Or I don't know what that means. What do I give them to use the images for when I take shots of a hairstylist?
Right, yes, and this is a good question, and I think it's a good thing, because when you start to come up just giving and I'm not saying you have to give your services away for free, but you do need to have limitations and boundaries, because if you allow the client to take control of the situation, they will always walk all over you unless you can clearly state what it is your intentions are. So a good thing, instead of saying, I'm just going to offer my services and here's some images for free, what I would say to them is that, I'd love to work with you. My services usually cost X, and that I would love to provide my this package of services which is valued at X, Y, and Z. But as a gift or as a complimentary, whatever you want to label it as, I'd like to provide this as a gift to you for us, to get to know me. And what I often do with that is, like, for instance, if I work with the vendor, like say the hairstylist, I remember doing this not so long ago. We did a pin-up party where we had a local hair salon come and provide the hair and makeup styling. I did like the before and after shoots. We had another lady who did Tupperware, another one who did Mary Kay, another one who did jewelry, and one of the clients of mine, the photography client, was hosting it at her house, who made cupcakes. And that was a great way for everybody to pool their resources. So the hairstylists weren't charging for their time, and I wasn't charging for my time, but what I provided them was a Facebook photo. So there wasn't an actual tangible product. But what that did for me was that I did the retouching. So yes, there was a cost involved. But what I would do then is take those images, say for the hair salon, I put them on in a nicely packaged CD. And within there, I had like a thank you letter, thanks for giving your time to the event. And I attached an invoice for the full value of what they would have paid me. with the big letters that said paid. And I wrote a little note that said, so great working with you. I'm very, I'm delighted to have donated my services, to have worked for the opportunity to work with you. So they know, oh, wow, I just got $500 worth of photos for free. I bet they're like, wow, so if I'm going to refer her to someone else, she's worth $500.
Yeah.
So you're
That's
not
a great
coming
tip.
across as, you're not coming across as, please pick me. I'd love to give you my photos, and I'll give it for free and free and free. It totally elevates you to another level. What it says to your clients is that I'm a professional. My services and my time is worth money, and this is what I'm valued at. So if you can figure out what that value is, you're not being in their face, but you're subtly showing them what it is.
Yep.
So if someone asks me for something free now, I have my online scheduling system, and I say, okay, what it is that you're looking for, send it to them as a quote, and they come back to me and they're like, oh, I didn't expect it to be so much. And they're, well, considering the situation, maybe we can work something out, but you want them to know upfront what you are worth and what your time is valued at.
I think Stephen is catching on to the hair salon thing, because he's just posted something about that. But I would caution Stephen, don't walk in and say, hey, who wants to do pinup photos? Let's go back to my place.
Yeah.
That may not work the same for you, Stephen, as it would for Mimika. So be a little careful there. But going through the hair salon is a great tip for Stephen if you want to do, because brides are going through there. There's a lot, like you said, women are doing a lot of the decisions here on photos, and there's a lot of women are going through there who, in multiple facets of their life, have a need for a photographer. All right, so we've done all that. And now, one of the things, I don't know, maybe I've got out of order here. I need to do a logo. Where am I going to go? Just to say for JPEG to RAW, my logo stinks. I'm horrible at designing a logo. So
exactly. So first mistake is us photographers. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. Just because we know Photoshop doesn't mean we necessarily should do that. And I've made this mistake myself. And the reason why is that you're too deeply involved and you're used to seeing things the way that you would see it, that you're not looking at it from a design perspective. Because there's a quote, I can't remember who said it, that said, the best design is when you cannot take anything else. There's nothing else to take out. And what happens with a lot of us photographers, we tend to we do everything like, oh, let's add this filter, or oh, let's add this function. And then we tend to just overcomplicate things. So for instance, now if you know where you want to go, you can plan how to get there. So part of your branding and knowing who your customer is, and knowing the type of clients, that the kind of look that's going to appeal to them. There's a few places out there that you could go that doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. So if you want something really customized, there's a place called 99designs.com. You can actually you pay $99, and then you can actually have a bunch of designers quote on ideas. So you can say, this is what I'm looking for, give them a few examples, and then I've had up to 15, 20 designers bid on the project, and then you can award the project based on their final design. So in actual fact, they're doing it first for you before you actually pay for it. So that would be a more customized approach. There are other places that I like. Recently, I got a logo for another client I was working with from Etsy, funny enough. You get these designers, if it's cheap as $35, you can get a pre-made logo. And they are designing it in InDesign. So it's an EPS and a vector format, which is what you need for print quality, so you don't get that pixelating look. Because that's the problem, is if we're designing in Photoshop, it's not the same as if you actually want to print this on, say, whatever. You do need a properly designed format. A few other places I also like, we mentioned this before the show, themeforest.net. You've got a variety of things you can get there, everything from music jingles to logos to website design themes. But whichever you go for, definitely go for something that looks professional and ties in with your brand messaging. So, and that's the thing, is you might find a style you like, but you can always change the colors.
So looking at ThemeForest, just put up ThemeForest, and we were talking before in the pre-show about the intro you have in Mimika TV, not the logo, but the actual intro, and you bought something and then edited it yourself, made some edits in After Effects. You did that, and you got it from ThemeForest. I got my theme for my website. So ThemeForest is also a place you can buy your WordPress theme, right, and other things from there too. Because we haven't talked to any about this, and we won't have time to spend much time on it. But having a Facebook page is great. You want to do that, but having a good professional looking website is also something you have to do, in my opinion. You have a good professional website, and going with WordPress, not the one where WordPress hosts it, but your own WordPress site. I don't know if that's theme or .org or .com. I can't remember which one, but having it hosted somewhere like Bluehost or DreamHost or HostGate or one of those places, and getting a professional looking theme. The ones that come free with it are not that great. Getting something like a theme from Theme Forest, and there's a number of other places you can get them from too, is a good idea. There's lots of them out there at all kind of different prices. You can look through them. You can do demo. They have a live demo site on them. So look through and get a good site there. And I guess, like you said, you can buy some other things there too. I've not looked at that. Audio jingles.
Oh yeah, I mean, I got the Mimika TV audio jingle from there. I did the intro and the outro, in actual fact, from my Mimika TV show. I got from Theme Forest, and then just made some adjustments in After Effects. It takes ages to render, so if you don't necessarily want to do that, there's a place called Fiverr, FIVERR.com.
I was going there next. Already got it pulled up.
Exactly. There you go. If you want to find someone who can do that for you, I love the guys at VideoPixie.com. They do all my edits for my Mimika TV shows, and again, you have a selection of designers. They also know After Effects and a lot of animation graphics. So if you want something done, you can put a quote in there, and you can get a variety of people bidding on it, and you can choose from there. So there are a lot of places. And I must mention this because I know I hear this a lot, and I'm sure there's some of you out there who are thinking that, well, I can't afford to do that. I can't afford to pay for someone. Listen, honey, you can't afford not to pay someone, because when you start messing around in After Effects and you start messing around in Facebook in Photoshop trying to get it right, you may as well have paid someone who could have done it cheaper, quicker, and faster. So that's my 2 cents worth.
And that we've talked about this before. That's it's a very important thing to think about, is your time. The one thing you can't create more of is time. None of us can create more time. There's only 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, and we got to think about, where's your time most valuable. Is it out shooting? Is it running your business, finding new clients, that kind of thing? If you're spending time like me, for me to do that After Effects thing is going to take me forever, and it's not going to come out very well probably. And you got to gauge that. You're not going to sit down. It's going to take way more time than you think. You're not going to sit down and bang it out in a half hour. It's going to be hours and hours on some of these projects, if you're as untalented as me and doing those things. And that may not be the best way to spend your time.
Definitely. And that's the thing, is you got to look at your time is money. If you're a consultant, especially for those people out there who still have full-time jobs, if you work out what your hourly rate is, if you started messing around with things, as I said, you can't afford not to. Like, one of these examples is, I gave up doing my own retouching like 3 years ago because my husband got sick and tired of being on the couch by himself. And he says, listen, you are on the computer all the time. It's like you're having an affair with your computer. I'm like, okay, something has to change, And when I started looking at it, and I found people who could do things much better than I could, I was like, well, duh, why didn't I do this before? And there's lots of resources like for doing retouching. And for me, retouching is, I don't believe Photoshop is there to fix a bad job. It's there to enhance things. That's why I feel, before you even start to mess in Photoshop and charge money, I'm assuming most people understand you got to be a good photographer and know your equipment, right? That is a given. You got to know how to take good pictures.
Right. But
once you start messing around in Photoshop, if it's something that is consistent, like for instance with my baby photography, I have studio lighting, and I have I hardly ever change the lighting setups because I have it in a small space. So all I need to concentrate on is getting the posing and expressions right. The skin tones are the same. The white balance is the same. So when I give it to my retoucher to work on, she can get through things very quickly, and we can crank out through a lot more. And I can actually get on doing the things that are more important, which is dealing with the client, shooting and marketing, and getting more business. Because when I worked it out, if I was paying her, let's say $20 an hour to do retouching, when I worked out what I was worth, if I'm charging my clients $100 for a session, it doesn't make sense for me to spend 3 hours, $300 on retouching, because if you start to equate that into your cost of sale, I'm like, oh, that was really expensive. So yeah, that's one thing we cannot afford to forget, is your time.
Yeah, I imagine it's tough though when you're first starting out and you're not bringing in a ton of business. You know, maybe the weddings are not stacked up every weekend, and you're worried about where am I going to find my next job. It's tough to make the decision to outsource that. So what do you think? What do you think about? I don't know. I don't have the answer here because if you're short on clients, you need to be spending your time finding more clients, and that's a great way to do it. But it's tough at that first part. We've had somebody on the show, Ryan Brenizer, on the show, who does 70+ weddings a year.
Ooh,
now,
ouch.
his talent, and he also does engagement stuff too. So he's a busy guy. His talent is interacting with those clients, finding those clients, and taking those photos. And the only way he can do that kind of volume is with help. And you got to think about that. Where is your time most valuable? Is it in the editing? If it is, then maybe you need to be an editor and you hire somebody to do the photos. I don't know, but it's a struggle when you don't have a flow of clients coming in, and you got that free time.
Definitely, and that's the hardest part. Like I always say, the first year is the hardest because it's like you don't really know, first of all, where you're going or who your clients are, and then that's when a lot of the time is. You do things for free and then you hope that things work out. But you can do things for free as long as there's a purpose to it. So in other words, if you're working with someone in, you say that a country club and you say, let's bring do a photo session for all your staff and, redo your photos for your social media. It might seem like a waste of time and that you're not necessarily getting money in the door. But it's all baby steps. We can't despise the small beginnings. And it all starts with trying one thing at a time. There is no quick fix. There is no speed to the end. You really need to do the work. There is no way around it. And the other thing is I always love to talk about is, I have a ton of books that I love reading. And one of the ones that I love, which is actually a quote by Steve Martin, is be so good they can't ignore you. If you can concentrate on being the best photographer, customer service professional, whichever it is you do, because we are in the service-based industry. We're not just providing photos. If we can really focus on that and be the best that we can be, business will come. Because I often think, and I had this situation where I felt stuck too, and I didn't know how to get myself out of there. And I realized I was focusing too much on me and what I wanted to get from a client, as opposed to thinking again, I'm in this service-based industry. What does my client want? How can I service them better? And it's kind of like a mental thing. It's almost like you have this breakthrough when you start to think about, okay, let's see how we can help them, because when you start helping people, business and money does flow after that.
And that's been kind of a common theme of what you're saying tonight, is to think about the customer. This is not all about you. It's you're trying to sell something to these people, to the customer, and you need to be thinking about them.
Definitely. Because I think that's what's changed in when photography first came out in the likes of digital, 93, 94. What am I saying? 93, 94. 2003 is when I first saw my digital camera. And, back then it was like the entry level to photography was much higher. Equipment was much more expensive. I remember clients saying, my camera can never take as good pictures as you can, so I know I need to spend money with you. But now that's not the case. Everybody's a photographer. You just have a smartphone, you're a photographer. That isn't enough anymore. And I think the businesses that will stand out are the ones who make the best and have the greatest customer experience. Let's still talk about Apple. And I know this has been like so cliche, but it's so true. Steve Jobs was obsessed with the user interface and how his products would be better for the clients. Not, I want to sell more cell phones. He was like, okay, how can we make this better? How can we make the music industry, how can we make music more accessible? I mean, look how he totally changed that. The whole music industry's turned on its head because he didn't think about let's sell more CDs. He thought about what does the user want? How do I make this so easy for them to work with me? How do I make it pleasant for them to work with me, and that they just feel like they can't help but talk about me? And, as I said, it's a work in progress. You're never going to arrive. It's a journey, and you will learn along the way. And it's fine if you make mistakes, because you're going to learn from it. But you have to take those steps in doing it first and doing the work right from the beginning.
Very good. And I can't believe it. We're already at an hour.
I know, isn't it? I was watching the time.
And that was a good wrap up. That was a good end, but I feel like there's so much more to talk about. We didn't even talk about a social media strategy.
Well, you have to have me on again, you see. Keep you wanting more.
Absolutely. We have to have you back on again, because this is a conversation that can go on for a long time. We had a lot of comments out in in chat, and I see a few people out there. Mike Wren, who is from Photosmith, they have the app for the iPad for the Lightroom. Mike Wren's out there, and I think he's a professional photographer. I can't remember. I don't think he's full time, but he may be somebody who's wanting to go full time. And Dean Stone, Yvonne, I'm going to say your name wrong, Brian, and a few other people out there too. And I saw Jackie out there earlier, who are all. This is all a topic that is interesting to them, and something that the business side. No matter how good a photographer you are, the business side is what's going to make you successful. And it's something you got to be thinking about. It's a great topic and something I would love to come back to again with you, Mimika.
Oh, yeah, there's so many. We've just touched the tip of the iceberg.
Yes,
There's so much more. And it really is a journey of self-discovery. And I love it when I have these, my clients that I work with in mentoring have these aha moments. And it's like, oh, that I get it. But it's a process. And even for myself, as I said, I'm continually learning. I've never arrived. I'm still constantly learning and tweaking and trying things, and sometimes repetition is not a bad thing. Hearing things again and again does definitely help. And saying that, for everyone who's listening live, I'm actually going to be doing another branding class tomorrow. So tomorrow, which is Wednesday 25th at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, if you look on my website, mimikacooney.com, it's called the Success Summit, along with 14 other speakers. It's actually started today. We'll go on tomorrow and then Thursday as well. There's free access to great content. But tomorrow's class I'm doing, mine is called the Branding Blueprint, How to Create a Magnetic Marketing Strategy. So if you like what we talked about today, listen in tomorrow. You just need to sign up on the page, then you'll get the free link and the download workbook I've created. And I'd love to hear feedback too. Go to my website. I want to see, say hi on Facebook, Mimika Cooney fans, and Twitter. I'm on. If you look on any social media platform, you just look for my name. And wherever you like to hang out, say hi, and I'll find you.
And we'll have all the links in the show notes. If you haven't been over to Mimika's site already, like you said, go over there. You have Mimika TV, which has got some great people on it. Some people I recognize, like Rachel Brinke, you've had on there recently.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes, Rachel are the mamas who, organized mamas who work at 100 miles an hour, getting things done with 3 kids. So she's got 4 now.
She is a super woman who seems to be everywhere, and you interviewed her recently along with a lot of other people. You have some great interviews on there, so go over there and check that out. And the Success Summit, I have it pulled up right now for people to see. Go over to Mimika's site and take a look at that.
Yeah, let me know. Who do you want me to interview? I always love to hear like this. I was very surprised, or pleasantly surprised, when I came across your show. I was like, oh, yay, more great resources. Because the more we can get out there and help the industry, the better, I think. The more we can all get the education. And that's why I'm just like so passionate about teaching and helping others. Because, boy, I had a lot of pain in the 10, 11 years of learning, that if I can help someone else, I feel like it's a success.
Yeah. And Stephen says, thank you so much. And for answering his questions, thank you so much, Mimika, for that.
Pleasure.
How can Stephen get in touch with you if you want to get in touch with you? Through your website or through Facebook, or what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yes, well, as I said, the website is mimikacooney.com. There's actually a little freebie section. If you go and click on that, I have an ebook called Modern Marketing, which will help you think outside the box. And then once you're in my newsletter program, I send out these regular emails for Mimika TV, which is Wednesdays at noon, that goes live. And I'm always doing things on Facebook as well, which is Mimika Cooney Fans is my business page. I'm on Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, depending on what's going on. And like tonight, we tweeted out a couple of times that we were on the show. And, that's the best way to get in contact with me. So, I'd love to hear from them.
Very good. Thank you very much. Before we head out, I did want to say that, again, we all were going to miss Jeannie and wish she could have been here with us tonight. Go to our Facebook group or go to Jeannie's Facebook page. If you knew Jeannie, go to her Facebook personal page and leave a comment there. Her family will eventually see it. So it's a great way to say goodbye to a good friend of the show. Yeah. We have forums. I bring it up every once in a while. It does get some activity now. Even Tim posted out there. And I started to do something in the download section. If you go to download section now, where I am putting some of my Lightroom presets out there. And this was like the thing I use. It's a real light basic edit when I import photos. I do a basic edit out there, and I've got it now, so you can go and you can download it, and you can tell me, Mike, that's you're doing it all wrong. Here, make this change. So you can even go download it and tell me what I've done wrong, and then help me fix it. And if you have one you want to share, go there and post it there too. Not ones that you've bought, not ones that you've bought and then copied all the settings. These are ones you created all on your own. So don't get me in trouble with copyrighted presets you bought somewhere. But go out there and share that, and it hopefully we'll build it over time. It'll be a great resource for other people. And
Well, that's great.
Yeah. So we'll have a few out there. I guess the other thing is we're coming up on the end of the month. It's the 24th, and this month photo challenge in our Facebook group was composites. So you got 6 more days. Yeah, 6 more days to enter that in our Facebook group, or you go to our website, and there's a link there where you can submit that way if you're not in the Facebook group. Submit your composite photo. It doesn't have to be photos you taken this month. That's the change. Usually it has to be photos you have taken this month. But it does have to be a composite that you created this month. So do that, and then if you don't want to enter that one, we'll have another one next month. We do these every month. It's a way to get us out there and get shooting. Tim, what else am I forgetting? Oh, so to keep it going and keep us giving out gifts and doing giveaways like we just did the Mark Johnson giveaway with his stuff, is remember to use our Amazon link. I forget to keep saying this every month. We don't keep any of this money. We use it all to give back to you through either the contest money or from the challenges or from giveaways, something like that. So we just gave away Mark Johnson's composite videos. We gave away 4 of them. Yeah, we gave away 4 of them. And we're also right now have a giveaway going for Mark Johnson's year-long subscription to his website. And this is all those video tutorials that he has on composites, on all kind of different stuff. So it's a great thing to do that. Even if you don't win the contest, you may want to go over to Mark's site and look at that up until the end of the month. It's only $19 or $20, $19.99 for the whole year. So that's a great product there, great price for that. But the way we keep getting to do it is from the little bit of money we use from Amazon. So anytime you're going to go to Amazon, just do www.jpegderaw.com/Amazon, and we'll get a small credit. Does not have to be a photography-related item that you're buying, just anything, shoes, phones, whatever. Just remember to use that link. If you can't remember it, it's on our webpage. You can just go there and click there, too. So until next show, keep it raw. Good night, everybody.
Good night.